Hey there, this is Ada.
And I'm Stefan.
And we're just going to tell you a little bit about what it was like to buy a house here in Puerto Vallarta and what that entailed. So let me tell you how we ended up here. So first of all, we knew we wanted to be in Puerto Vallarta. You know, it's a really cool place. It's, you know, there's stuff to do from the outdoor perspective. It's got a lot of character. In the center, this is where the life was. This is what we really fell in love with. When we came on a whim, on a Thanksgiving trip, you know, that was our intent. We mapped out what was on the MLS and we did our own version of House Hunters International and just walked around, checked out the neighborhoods, got lost, had to ask for directions.
As Ada mentioned, it was really about just walking through the neighborhoods. I think in that one day that we were here, we spent I think 27,000 steps ahead of my little watch that we had talked about.
Yeah, you need to be in shape for that.
And I also too, you know, picking a good realtor. It's really hard to do this just by yourself because there's a lot of people that, you know, have houses for sale and they're not really for sale. It just so happened our realtor, David Hoffman at Tropicasa, we didn't know this at the time until we got here, was actually featured on, Mexico Life, which is the HGTV show.
All right, so basically there's the water and there's a whole lot of stairs. I think there's anywhere between 53 to 60 of them depending on where you lose count. So you gotta be, and yeah, there's like a ton more. And you can see we're in the middle of a neighborhood. We're not in completely gringo land. One of the things that I think is interesting is when you're looking at property here in Mexico, it's a little different than when you're doing it in the States. So in the States, it's like, hey, open house, you go walk in and you check it out and the buyer agent's there and, you know, then you kind of move on. Here, what's interesting is you actually need to have both the buyer and seller agent present. So this is why, once again, having your buyer agent with you. I mean, when we got there with our agent, he had pretty much, you know, on like 3 pages, like in 15-minute appointments, like these were all the places we were going to go see and actually meet the other realtor that was going to be there.
Yeah, and what I liked it, even though some of the properties he showed us weren't, you know, what we would like to have seen, it was really great to see the range of different properties that he showed us to get an idea of what we really wanted.
Okay, inside.
All right, so inside it's fairly basic. We basically call this our hose down house, meaning that there's really not much here that can be broken or can be taken, frankly. It's something that we wanted to have a simple life, no televisions. Granted, we've got some phones and such, but what we have is we've got basically a bed here that we use as a place to sit. We've got a very small kitchen, no oven. We've got a massive refrigerator that we got on a Craigslist type website that we got here that's used. And such, and we've got some tables and chairs to have a party, and we have lots and lots of beer and margarita mix. And so that's how we roll here on the ground floor with our kitchen and our basic setup that we have.
All right, so tell me a little bit about how we chose this house.
Everybody's different. A lot of people want to come in, they want security of a turnkey, you know, fancy new condo. We thought a little differently from that perspective. We felt is, you know, anything that was fancy, turnkey, in a secluded gringo area is going to be more expensive, very close to the cost of what it would be in the United States. Whereas if you get something more local, more traditional, that, you know, obviously that's going to be priced a lower or a lot lower. And then you can use folks here that know their work and know their construction to build it with basically cheaper Mexican labor rates. And we felt that was the best approach for us. All right, so on our second floor, you'll see that we have a lot of rustico furniture, which is basically simple wood furniture that's got some conditioning on it to help with the termites. Termites are a big problem here in Puerto Vallarta, so you have to be wary. Either get stuff that's not wood, get wood that's not susceptible to termites, or treat it.
Now, we don't own this property outright because we're within 50 kilometers of the ocean, and neither of us at this point in time are Mexican citizens, although that's to be continued. So we can't own it outright. But that being said, it's all safe, it's through a trust. This would be the thing if I were to caution somebody, is that if you're trying to buy direct from a seller, you don't know what you're getting into. There are like family squabbles, like families own big chunks of land, and let me tell you, everybody's ready to sell you, kind of the make me move price. The reality is that it hasn't really been set up to sell yet, and so there's a lot of squabbling that's still happening just internally with the family. So you got to make sure that really what you're doing is you're going through somebody that's already been kind of vetted, that the property and everything has already been, established that yes, you can actually purchase this from a person who is selling it. And so when we went and looked around, like I said, we looked at a range. We looked at some super brand new, not even finished yet places, which I didn't like personally, because for me, it if I want to feel like I'm living in the U.S., I'll live in the U.S. I wanted to be here in a traditional place with a big view that looked like Mexico, and that's ultimately what we got. And interestingly, was the absolutely cheapest one on the whole list by far.
The other thing that we did in our renovation is we created a more traditional bathroom. With toilet, sink, and shower. Before it had the sink on the outside, which was basically for washing. So in a lot of traditional houses, you'll have this concrete sink that's just for washing clothes. And so we decided to move that in, increase the size of our bathroom, which enabled it to be a lot more comfortable.
Oh, and add a door, because there was no door.
Yeah, no, there was no door, which of course, it's par for the course here. So the other thing we didn't do, and I'm still on the edge of this, I think Ada is more against it, but washing machines. If you want to have a washing machine, it's typically gas, again, because electric is expensive. But what we decided to do, at least for the time being, and I think Ada would want to have that for longer term, is we just take our laundry out, since it's relatively inexpensive and it comes back all nice, clean, packaged, folded, and such. And so we've done that instead of having a laundry.
I didn't come to Mexico to do laundry.
The voice from the back of the camera.
Right.
Anyway, and so then on our second floor, we also have a bedroom. And we made this relatively nice. This is our second bedroom, our daughter. We've got a nice, beautiful view out the back, so that's it. Now, what's interesting is everybody builds up here, so who knows how long this view is going to last if the house in front of us builds up. Hopefully, we're good. We actually, when we worked with our place, we ensured our construction didn't impede anybody's view, which was really important. But yeah, obviously, more things need to go on the wall to make it pretty, but this is a good, simple bedroom with a nice view of the Banderas Bay.
And we added air conditioning there just because it's nice to have it in the summertime.
Yeah, air conditioning the whole house is a waste, but for sleeping, it's good to crank down the AC a little bit and get to sleep at night, and it's relatively inefficient that way too. Well, it's really efficient that way, not inefficient.
We knew what things were the non-negotiables. We knew we wanted a view. We knew we didn't want to be looking at somebody else's building with no water view. We knew we wanted to be in the center of downtown. And so if something was outside of that, no, I don't even want to even consider it. It had to be walking distance, because we didn't want to end up with a car. Uber works great here, and so we use that if we actually do need to get somewhere, to haul back groceries or something, we call an Uber, or there's taxis around. That's not that difficult. So, and that was something that was a really important consideration, because the last thing we wanted to have was an extra bit of stress in knowing that we had to have a car.
Other things that I found important is to figure out what you want that other people may not want. So for instance, in our house, you have to go up 55 steps. And for folks that don't want to have those steps, obviously that's a big showstopper. And so that obviously, from a demand perspective, reduced the price of our place significantly, especially since our place, I wouldn't consider it turnkey as well. So that's where we got a really good deal. We did meet with the neighbors, who are tremendous, and the neighbor said, hey, we've got this construction person that just did our place. We looked at it, they did a wonderful job. And so it was very easy for us to say, hey, we'll just do the exact same thing. We did that, which was good.
Not the exact same thing.
Well, not the exact, they did it much better. We did more.
No.
We did more.
Not the exact same thing.
Well, we did a lot of work, but we didn't go as fancy as they did. We went more rustic, which was important. All right, so this is where it all happens in our home. This is the view out to the water. It's tremendous. This is what sold us on our place here. And you really can't get better than that. I know that there's a lot of houses that are for sale where they've got this little peak of view. We decided to go basically the full frontal view of the water, and we were able to do so at a reasonable price given the state of the house that we purchased. Again, all the flooring is new. We did a lot of renovations with it, and again, it's still rustic. But anyway, inside of this is our master bedroom, and strangely enough, when we moved in, there was a shower and a toilet, but no sink. And so one of the things we did is we added a sink here, which obviously made a big difference. And then we renovated here, and we also have within our bedroom. Again, the setup is the same with some air conditioning and a fan, but we added an additional loft up here. We had a sloping roof up, and so we basically redid the roof. And now we have another bed up into our loft area, which is great.
Hey, looky there. We closed the drapes.
Yeah. A little dark, that's okay. I get the idea. With the construction, what I found is I'm very much anal retentive and looking for this, nice tight contracts for them to work by. I realized after the first meeting the contractor that doesn't really work very well here. It's best to basically pay as you go.
The buying process is like I said, you just got to know what do you want, what do you not want. I mean, it is kind of like watching those house hunter shows. I mean, you got to know what you're looking for, but to be open and to not necessarily be afraid of the things, like I said, construction and not not having something turnkey. Here it is Mexico, and here we wanted a rustic look. So you know what? And there are no straight lines in our house. None. There are none. And so it wasn't as big of a deal. So it was much more low key. The key thing was actually making sure you have somebody that you could trust. So having the recommendation, whether it's, like I said, we happened to get the recommendations from our neighbors, which was great because we knew they'd already gone through the process of schlepping the stuff up the big hill. And we also saw what they were capable of, which was like, wow, okay, the place that they have is like way above and beyond anything we could ever, well, we could do that if we wanted to, but that really wasn't where we were going. Knowing that we were going to do something kind of much more rustic, it's like, well, if they can do that, they can absolutely handle what we're going to ask them to do. And so, like I said, it just was one of those things where it did not take that much effort.
And one of the things that you should be aware of, especially living in a city, living in Puerto Vallarta, is the noise. There is noise. Luckily, it's not too terrible. You've got the dings of the bell, as you may hear, but there's also band music. There are random parades with one guy with a drum and a trumpet. There are people living their lives and babies and all this other good stuff. We actually didn't mind that at all, just because you feel like you're in the city and being part of it. But when I'm working for my work from the United States, it can be a little difficult. So basically, I shut the windows, turn on the air conditioning, and try to hunker down a bit with that. The other thing that you should be aware of if you're looking to, in addition to the noise, living in Puerto Vallarta proper here, is the wiring. The wiring has something to be desired. I actually cleaned up some of the wire, but you'll see here if you look left, there's a lot going on out there, which frankly ain't pretty. But what we did is we just basically had a shades cover that, so you don't see that at night. And we'll probably do some more stuff over time to avoid looking at the wires. But that's one area. We want everybody to look out by the water instead. And then of course we have our hammocks here.
The labor is cheap, so construction costs are like a fraction of what you would pay back home. But yes, it's going to take longer. And if you like straight lines and things staying shiny and touch-up paint not getting off, other things, then you know what, it may not be your thing and you may want to have something turnkey. But if you're okay with a little rustic, if you're okay a little bit with like, okay, they might have to knock it out and do it over again, like I said, that's another conversation.
That last 5% that gets you to perfection, it's going to take 5 times the amount of effort to get there because you're going to have to be redoing things over and over again.
And time.
Yeah, the time and the expense and the headache wasn't worth it for us. And we kind of like to have a little bit of a funky house anyway, so it worked out. All right. So one of the other things to consider when getting houses here, most houses are 3 stories and a roof. And so what we did is we did that exact same thing. The roof before was not very usable when we purchased the house, but of course we changed that around. We put in some tile. Obviously this rock and view is really important to us. And then of course our big investment here is the hot tub. So you gotta have a hot tub looking out at a beautiful view, right? Why not? And so that really caps off our house tour, if you will. It's beautiful here at night during the day, and can't think of anything better, quite frankly.